I think we'll begin. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dina Abul-Futuh. I'm Vice President of Marketing Communication at the university. I'm pleased to serve as your moderator for this session of the campus conversation focused on the impact of the devaluation. Welcome to everyone here and online. As usual, I'll ask our panelists, whom I'll introduce in just a second, to give a brief overview, and then we'll open it up for a discussion for everyone here and online. And to our online audience, as a reminder, you can post questions in the Q&A box, or you can also raise your hand and I'll recognize you to ask a question. So welcome to our panelists. We have with us today President Ahmed Dalal, Provost Ihab Abdulrahman, Associate Provost for Enrollment Management, Dr. Ahmed Abdelmegid, CFO Amir Habib, and our Head of HR, Sarah Rafat. So I think we'll begin maybe with remarks from President Dalal.
Good afternoon. I expected a larger audience given the importance of the topic. I hope there are, do you know how many people are joining us online? Okay, that's great. That's excellent. Okay, good afternoon. I hope you're doing well. And thank you for joining us today. I'll be happy to talk about other things, other topics of interest to you, but obviously one of the issues on everyone's mind is how we're going to respond to devaluation. So I'll talk exclusively for now in my initial remarks about that subject. And of course, more details, will be provided by my colleagues on the panel today. As we announced last week, and as we've done actually last year in response to devaluation, our priority has been and continues to be to support those in our community who are most impacted by the devaluation. And of course, not everyone. Everyone is impacted by devaluation, regardless of their salary bracket and whatever, but there are some people who are impacted in more fundamental ways, more urgent ways than others, and our focus is on them. And our priority is to direct the available resources that we have in the university. And again, we're working with limited resources. We don't have open-ended resources. Money, as I often say to everyone, does not grow on trees. We have to have a balanced budget. We have limited income, and we have commitments and expenses for the quality of education that we provide. So, but we do have resources. We've planned actually last year when we approved this year's budget. We planned for the eventuality, because everyone was saying that the devaluation is not over, that the last wave was going to be followed by another wave. Everyone was expecting this. The negotiations with the IMF were ongoing. So we prepared ourselves for this eventuality. We planned for an additional wave of devaluation. And our priority right now is to direct the resources that are available to us to those who need it most. This has been our guiding principle in making decisions on allocation last year, and in making the decisions on allocation that this time around as well. Obviously, the first group most hit, again, as I said in my message last week, as we said last year, the first group which is most hit is our students and their families. And again, we stand firmly committed that no student will be unable to finish their education due to the inability to pay. So we are fully ready to intervene to ensure that no student's education will be disrupted because of the effect of the immediate effect of the devaluation. We're talking right now about this semester, and of course, we will follow up and think about next semester as we move forward. Last week, we announced a student emergency tuition fund for students who still have an installment, the third installment, remaining installment for the tuition, for the fall 22 tuition. A key here is not just allocating the funds which we have. We've allocated the funds and we're ready to intervene to the extent that is needed for the remaining part of the tuition. that we've done. But it's not just that. A key here is to ensure that we're responsive, that our financial support team is equipped and flexible and responsive and ready to intervene quickly. So we've boosted the team. We have provided additional human resources, right, to the team, and Ahmed is responsible for that. So Ahmed, you can ask questions to Ahmed afterwards. But that's already in motion. There are many students who've applied, and we're proceeding with that. The key here is, of course, for students to come forward and ask. And we've been telling students who've been, there were different views and so on this subject. We have the resources available. We've mobilized the resources. We've mobilized the human resources to process requests quickly, expeditiously, and we stand ready to intervene whenever students come to us and tell us that they have specific needs. And again, more details can be provided by Ahmed. The second group that is most impacted are both faculty and staff whose salaries are primarily denominated in Egyptian pounds. Again, based on the same principle, the same guiding principle of supporting those who need it most, we will be making a one-time payment in the November payroll. And why a one-time payment? I know this is a question on people's minds. Last year, we changed in response to devaluation. We made a small intervention, and then we changed. We had significant permanent salary increases. We don't change the budget mid-cycle. This year's budget the budget is set for a cycle. This year's budget is set, so we cannot increase the salaries permanently, but we will be making significant interventions, significant contributions for the remaining part of the year, and then we will do the planning for next year depending on the resources that are available to us and so on and so forth. That's part of a budget cycle which we will be working on hard. Certainly, the pace will pick up in the beginning of January, but we're already beginning to think very systematically, as systematically as we can about next year's budget. For now, we're making a significant intervention to help, to help members of our community who are in most need, to help them ride the current wave, the remaining part of the year, until we come to next year's cycle. So we will be making a one-time payment in the November payroll. Again, the provost and AVP Sarah will tell you more about this. If you have specific questions, they can share more details. Not all of the details, but the principles. But generally speaking, our goal is again to direct the available resources to those who are at the lowest ends of the pay scale, while allocating proportionally less to those who earn more. So, as we did with the salary increases last year, members of our community who are at the lower end of the pay scale, who are affected most by the devaluation, will be getting the largest amounts, and that amount will decrease gradually. I can tell you without getting into specific details, because these are staff issues and we can't get into the detail of every single case, but I can tell you that grades 1 to 6 will be getting the salary of 2 months. And then we will move gradually less as we move up the scale. About 20% of the workforce will not be getting anything. So there is a cap. Not everyone. There are people, again, I'm not saying people are not affected. Everyone is affected by devaluation. In fact, there are some people who are gaining from devaluation, not at AUC, elsewhere. Everyone is affected by devaluation. But the top 20%, including, of course, the senior leadership and the higher earners in the university will not be getting anything, because they can ride this wave, they can weather it, and they're more equipped because of the level of their income to deal with it. But the remaining 80%, they will be getting something in between 2% onwards. It's a sliding scale. 2 months, sorry, so not 2%, 2 months, much more than 2%. 2 months will be 16%, right? Yes. 2 months for grades 1 to 6 and slightly less for the remaining members of the community. And again, we excluded deliberately the higher earners of the university, because they're not the ones who need the intervention at this point. They're not the ones who are in a crisis, without dismissing the impact of the evaluation on all members of the community. Um, uh, Now, in addition to supporting members of our community, we are trying to figure out, we're already beginning to try to figure out the impact of devaluation on various aspects of our operations. And trying to determine the most prudent management actions we should take on both the short and the long term. Last year, if you remember, many of you, I've spoken to many of you, I've spoken in public forums like this one, I've spoken in smaller groups about the importance of increasing efficiencies within the university, of reducing waste and increasing cost efficiencies. We've started doing that already last year. We have to double our efforts this year, and this is a collective effort for all of us. We are committed to supporting each other as a community, but we also need to work together as a community in realizing cost efficiencies, because only then will we be able to, if we realize such cost efficiencies, if we're prudent, if we're cautious, will we be able to invest more in our people, realize savings and invest more in our people. So this is an effort as we begin to prepare for next year's budget cycle. We have a lot of work to do, and this is a collective effort that we all have to be engaged in as we start planning for next year's budget cycle. So we will start next year's budget cycle in January, but in the coming months, we will be focused on increasing our efficiency and improving, of course, the quality across our quality across all areas of the university. We need your engagement. We need you to take ownership. This is your university. We're doing our best to live up to this principle, to this concept of caring for each other, but we need your engagement in this process as we move forward and as we try to mobilize for what lays ahead. Ultimately, we want to live up to the great promise, intellectual promise of this institution. Again, this is our collective effort. This is a glitch. Hopefully, I hope, I can't tell for sure, hopefully the outcome of the current turbulence will be eventually the currency will stabilize. There will be a more conducive environment for investors. Hopefully, we will have a few years of stability. This is everyone's hope at this point. But regardless, we will do our share. We'll do what we can internally to make sure that everyone is able to manage the current situation, the current difficulties, so that we come out at the end of the tunnel, we come out whole and safe, and move on and do our work as best as we can. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, President Dalil. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and direct a question to Provost Abdulrahman. So this happens at a time where many of our students are engaged in exams, projects. It's already a stressful time, and then on top of it, there are concerns about the devaluation and what they can do. So what advice do you have for students in this moment?
Thank you, Dina. Thank you, President Dalal. Before I start, last few weeks, we lost two members of our community that we love dearly, Dr. William Mikhail and Dr. Sharif Al-Assas. Both of them, I did not get the chance to work with Dr. William Mikhail or actually meet him, but I met and worked with Sharif Al-Assas a lot. His loss is a great loss, not only to EUC, but also to Egypt. He's one of the great computer scientists in this country. We wish his family the best, and we convey condolences to his immediate family and to his bigger family, all of us. Starting with that, Dina, this is the time of midterm exams. This is the time of projects. Everyone is busy also, students, faculty, and staff with the COP 27 and many things. And on top of that, the currency devaluation come. And that adds to the stress of our students. And this is the right time that we remind them by the mental health initiative. And I would like to ask them to make use of the mental health initiative and our Office of Student Wellbeing. Not only that, there are other resources also at the university that we need to make sure that we're using them in order to make sure that our students are getting through that hard time, including your faculty. Please talk to your faculty. They are your greatest resource in the university. I would like to talk also a little bit about the emergency fund. The day of the devaluation, the university leadership met, and as we anticipated this is going to happen, we had in our budget an emergency tuition fund that we deployed right away, and we opened the application for the students who need that emergency fund. We received the applications. Dr. Ahmed Abdelmegid now reported to me that almost all applications received got processed. So we're the team in the financial aid office. We did not increase the human resources there, Dr. Dalal, but we told them this is the time where all hands are on deck. We have to work closely, all of us, including the people in my office, to make sure that we process those applications on time to lessen the stress on the students and the families. So thanks, Ahmed. Thanks to you and to your team to processing all those applications. Details of the application, details of the emergency fund, Dr. Ahmed Abdelmegid will be talking about them very soon. Also, I want to remind everyone that if you have a question regarding them, specifically students and families, if you have a question regarding the emergency fund, reach out to us, reach out to Dr. Ahmed Abdelmegid personally, reach out to Dr. Michelle Henry, the Dean of Students. They will be able to answer all of your questions, and don't hesitate to ask for help. We're here to help you out. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Provost Abdulrahman. So, Associate Provost Abdelmegid, perhaps since we talked about the tuition emergency fund, if you could please tell us a little bit more about that. And I'll just take this opportunity. There's a couple of questions online related to this. One is, what is the due date to submit to the Student Emergency Tuition Fund, and how can we apply?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dina, and thank you for my fellow panelists. So first of all, I just second what President Dalal mentioned, that, and Provost Abdulrahman, that we're all here to help, and I'm saying this as part of the senior administration, but also as faculty, and foremost as a parent. So I know there's a lot of pressure on you and the students, and a lot of pressure on your parents. So this is the time to really appreciate your parents and how they're supporting you. So this is something that, as a parent, especially when it comes to education, this is something that makes us a little bit nervous, and education is something that extremely important for our sons and daughters. And this message has been cascaded to my team, the financial support team, that we are approaching this in a very agile way. We are speeding the process of processing the applications. As Provost Abdulrahman mentioned, the majority of the applications have been processed. Around above 90% have been processed. Maybe the audience, if you have applied, you got an email this morning with your decision. What we're trying to do here is that we're trying to absorb part of the difference that resulted from the devaluation. And this, of course, there are other factors that enter into that calculations based on the financial need and other aspects. So we're trying to help as much as possible. You should have received the letter, or if you're applying, you receive this as soon as possible. We're trying to cut down the processing time down to maybe 48 hours, so we are responsive as much as possible. In terms of the deadline, it's November 15th. And I think the link was sent through the president's email. That link will take you to Banner. So many people got a little bit worried that it takes you to Banner. It's part of Banner, so that link will take you there, and you log in with your credentials. If for whatever reason you cannot access whatever, you can send always to F Scholarship. So that is the email of the financial support team. And again, they have my very clear instructions that in this time, they have to be extremely responsive to any queries that you may have. So please, let us know if we can help. If you received also the letter and you have any questions or concern, please send to that email, the F Scholarship. Just please mention something like appeal and your name and ID. That will alert us that we need to respond to you as soon as possible. And of course, you can reach me personally if needed. But again, the whole team is ready, and I told them we need to approach this in a very agile and responsive manner. Was another question? No, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
We'll come to questions again, don't worry about it. So maybe I will follow up on the question of staff. So President Dalal, to our head of HR, Sarah Rifat, the president outlined sort of the approach in terms of those at the top of the scale and colleagues at the lower of the end of the scale. So for individuals that want to know what that impact is for them, when can they expect to learn more?
Thank you, Dina. As President Dalal indicated, the payment will be in November payroll. We are processing letters in HR, and maximum by end of next week, every eligible employee will receive their individual letter.
And I'll just take one other quick question online related to that about people in maternity. Sorry.
Yeah, and faculty member. Okay.
So again, that's all eligible staff and faculty will receive information pertaining to their individual case by November 17. Just a follow-up question since it's online. Someone asked about maternity employees or maternity leave. I don't know if you're able to address that.
Any employee active on payroll. So if they are on maternity leave and active on payroll, then they will be eligible.
Okay. So CFO is sitting patiently, so I will direct a final question to CFO and then open to the audience in the room, and then we'll go back to the online. So a lot of what we've been talking about is really related to this month and the current circumstances, but as our CFO, you're looking further ahead. So in light of the devaluation, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about?
Thank you, Dina. Perhaps I will build on what Dr. Dalal said earlier. Our first step was to make sure we'll be able to allocate some of our resources to support our community members, especially staff and faculty. That, as President Dalal mentioned, we also make sure that we have a commitment and obligation, and this is on our list of things that we need to address, and I believe also this is something we can do as well within this year's budget. I think the next important step that we need to focus on is the next year budget. And right now we are working on different scenarios and analysis to our operation. And this is all will be reflected in our budget assumption for next year. Next year budget will start in January, and final approval will be during May board meeting when we'll have a chance to discuss with Board of Trustees. So I think it's very important as we launch the budget cycle in January. We need involvement and collaboration with all our stakeholders to make sure that we can fill all the university obligation and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's actually a number of questions online, but I want to see if anyone in the room has any questions, please raise your hand and a colleague will bring you the microphone. Okay, so we have a couple. Why don't we start? That was the first hand I saw pop up, and then we'll go around to the side.
I just wanted to ask, the financial aid application that's on banner, that's like the last day for submission is December 13th. That's for spring, right? No, financial aid, not the emergency fund.
So there are two couple of things. There's one for the spring, okay, and there's one for the emergency fund that we're talking about right now. So the one that the emergency fund, the deadline is November 15th.
But the financial aid that's currently available on banner and its deadline is December 1st, that one's for spring.
Exactly.
Okay, thank
exactly.
you.
Yes.
Let me take one more from this side, and then we'll take one online. If you could please introduce yourself as well. Thank you.
Ahmed Badawi, Senior Director, Financial Analysis at the Controller's Office. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Danel and the panel and the moderator for giving the opportunity to have discussion, and I'd like to have more discussions throughout the year. This is very beneficial for the management and for the staff and faculty. I have a few comments. The staff is always in support and loyal for AUC, and this is what I feel since I joined AUC. And we stand together and pass through the devaluation back to 2016 and to the second devaluation, April 2022, and then the disaster of the third devaluation. What I need to convey that we have around 60% drop in the Egyptian pound versus the US dollar. And this definitely impacted the cost of living, the cost of the tuition for our child and the cost of living, I mean the expenses. So what I'm asking the panel and on the top, Dr. Dalal, is to reconsider. I'm so happy with the one-time bonus. However, it happened twice during the 6 years, and which means that the salary is almost constant. And we need to reconsider during fiscal year 23 an increase, because it was not expected, at least from our side, that the 60% will happen. Definitely, the one-time bonus will support. However, I'm talking about myself. I don't want to talk about the whole bunch of staff and faculty and the laws people. We need some support to face the 60% during FY23. And thank you for reconsidering. I understand that the budget is already approved. However, there should be some flexibility. Any budget should be flexible to face some bad circumstances for all over the country. One last comment. Usually the levels between the lowest, which is 1 to 6, and the top are missed sometimes. They can afford, however, they are not on the low-level income, and they are not joining the high level. So, the term of the people who can afford, or the lowest income people, or sometimes the most affected, I guess after the last devaluation, it covered all the levels, including the management. I'm not trying to praise you or something, but دي الحقيقة. This is the fact. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And actually, I will bundle. Thank you. So I will bundle with that some online questions. So at the core, there are several questions at the issue of salaries in general, the university's approach to salaries, issues of equity. So there's a number of those along the same line. So perhaps if the president would like to address this question of longer-term salary discussions.
So last year's response to devaluation was a significant increase in salaries across the board, and a permanent increase, not just a bonus, not just a one-time bonus, and that was a deliberate planning effort on our end. Budgets are set for yearly cycles. We have a budget which is set for last year. When we set this year's budget, we allowed for a provision in anticipation of another wave of devaluation. And this intervention is a temporary intervention. It will not, of course, it will not absorb everything. This problem, by the way, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to figure out how to deal with this challenge. And again, we're all hopeful that the current devaluation of the currency will bring some stability in the long run, will bring some flourishing in the economy and stability in the economy. But we're trying to figure out how to deal with it. When we come to next year's budget, we need to go through the budgeting cycle and see what we can do. And we're committed to work very hard on intervening in a meaningful way. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but if anything, you've seen in the last year and a half that this administration is very serious about taking into consideration the concerns of the community and doing our best to address these concerns. So last year we intervened permanently. Again, maybe not sufficiently, but we intervened permanently. And probably not everyone was as satisfied with the outcome. But I think we made a very serious effort to take various issues into consideration and to also work within the parameters of our budget. And we intend to do the same next year, and we'll see where we get. I can't tell you exactly right now what's going to happen, but I can assure you that we're gonna be working seriously and this current immediate intervention, we think is a meaningful intervention, which by the way, we concocted this specific intervention within the span of 1 week. I mean, we're dealing and trying to balance multiple demands, multiple and sometimes competing demands on the institution. So this is an immediate intervention. We think it's a meaningful intervention. The other issue that you raised, which is the fact that different people, yes, of course, everyone is affected, but there are some people who might be able to absorb this situation more than others, which is why, without getting into details, because these are personnel issues and we shouldn't be discussing them, you will get the letter from HR or from the Provost's office, which will, everyone will get the letter speaking about their specific situation. But this is why, because different people are affected differently, and because there are overlaps between different grades and so on, we deliberately gave more support to the lower end of the salary scale. We put a cap beyond which we're not giving any support. So around 20%, a little more than 20%, right, of the community will be excluded from the support. Again, I'm not saying that they're not affected, but they're not as severely affected as the rest of the community. There is also a cap on how much we will be giving people. So, if you give 2 months' salary for someone on the lower end of the scale, we're not giving 2 months' salary for someone at the upper end of the scale. That's not fair. That's not equitable. That's not. Again, we're not solving the problem. This is not a structural solution for the problem. This is an intervention to help people weather the remaining 6 months of the year as we start working systematically on the budget for next year. And I assure you that we will be working systematically on the budget. We've done so far, and we intend to do that as well. And by the way, again, this is a collective effort. I mean, we went within the span of 1 week, we went through multiple scenarios and trying to look at every scenario and how it will affect individuals, how it will affect groups of employees and so on across the board, across the spectrum. And it's a judgment call. It's not an exact science. It cannot be an exact science. You cannot in 1 week come up with a very accurate systematic solution. We think it's equitable to the extent that we can be equitable. We think it addresses the most urgent needs. We think it's meaningful. It's not just a small intervention. And we know that it's not structural, and we need now to work on the structural solutions for next year. And I want to thank everyone here, because everyone here on this panel was working very hard in the last days to assess, first of all, to assess the overall impact of the devaluation on the, I'll give you an example. If you have our income by and large is, even if when it's denominated in dollars, it actually comes to us as you know, it comes to us in Egyptian pounds. The money that we have sitting in banks lost a huge, it dropped in a very, very significant way. We lost the purchasing power on money that we have, that we're going to be, against commitments in dollars, a larger set of commitments in dollars. So we lost money for our operating budget. We lost purchasing value. Not to mention that contractors are now knocking on our door and saying they want to revisit prices and so on and so forth. This is something we needed to absorb. But along with that, we are aware of the pressure that our students are facing. We're all hopeful that eventually we will be, all of us, the whole country will be in a better situation after a few months, and we will all be able to adjust to the new reality. This is the whole, this is the hope of everyone, and everyone who's observing what's happening on the economic front. But until we get there, we have to be ready to intervene and help each other, support each other. So we identified the needs of the students. We identified the needs of a significant portion of our community, 80% of our community, not a small portion. And we also recognize that the impact differs according to the level of income. And we made a judgment call, and that's the basis of our action. So it's not a rocket science. It's not an exact science. It's not. It is a rocket science, actually. It's not an exact science. You cannot be completely sure, but we've done our best to intervene rapidly, because this cannot wait, and we will be working more systematically on next year's cycle.
Thank you. I'll take a question. You can clap if the audience wants to clap. It's okay. Let me take one online. Please do clap if you, let me take one online and then we'll come back if there's many questions in the room. So there is a question from our online audience regarding pay for adjuncts. And the question is, what about adjunct faculty compensation on the long term? Will this also be subject to review in the upcoming year?
That's a very timely question. I met with Mr. Shifi Shimi in my office today, and I asked him to review the adjunct faculty pay scale for the next academic year. So we're doing the exercise now as we speak. So yes, definitely, we're looking at all people at AUC in our preparation for next year budget.
Thank you. So I'll take let's go to this side of the room and then sorry I have you crisscrossing. So let's go to this side of the room. Maybe someone in the back, way in the back there. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Nelly. I'm from the SSE. I just want to highlight a fact that levels starting 10, actually building on what was said before, there are levels falling between the lower levels and the top management. Starting level 10, they lose some benefits like overtime, like waiver for the bus of dependents, these benefits, while their salaries are totally in Egyptian pounds and the medical insurance in US dollars. So they end up with a net salary much less than the lower levels. So I believe those need to be looked at. Thank you.
Bundle a couple of questions.
Very quickly, so all levels will be considered as long as the income, the actual income, is below a certain level, which is quite high. So are we looking at the net? No, not net. Not net. Yeah, but you know, the level is high, the level of income. Even if there are benefits that would reduce the take home, still we're talking about significantly, only 20% are excluded, 20% of the workforce. And by the way, in terms of numbers, they're small numbers. So anyone, regardless of grade, yes, starting level 10 and above and below, everyone is included as long as the actual income is below a certain cap, which is not a small cap. So the numbers that are actually excluded from this process are small, but these are people who have, you know, higher incomes. So everyone will benefit from this intervention in different ways, on different scales.
So let's perhaps, sure.
Hello everyone, Walid Al-Aghbari from Residential Life. Thank you all for having us and having this discussion. I speak on behalf of students. I was once a student at AUC, a scholarship student, and I want to voice the concerns of scholarship students as well. We're talking about an emergency tuition fund, tuition. We're not talking about those who get allowance from their scholarships. Are we considering those as well in the emergency fund or not? Should we? Because the amount they're getting is fixed. And I believe we should also consider how much they are impacted by this devaluation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for the comment. Definitely, stipend is an important part of supporting the students, and I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but actually there was an increase in stipend a couple of months ago that actually was in place before I actually came to office, and then I spoke with Professor Abdurrahman, and there was another increase maybe in sometime, I think it was in August to September. So already we're keeping an eye on the stipend itself, but that's something that definitely we'll have to take into consideration. Thank you.
Let me take from, maybe I'll give you a little bit of a break from making you crisscross. Why don't we go over here? We'll take one more from this side.
Good afternoon. My name is Alal Kholi. I'm a junior. And first, I'd like to thank you for your mission to make sure not that the devaluation does not affect AC students' mission to pursue their education. And I'm very thankful for that. However, I do have a question. The emergency fund is going to help a lot of people, which I'm 100% sure is going to help a bunch of people. However, what's the plan for the upcoming semesters? Are there going to be an increase in the financial aid percentage? Are more scholarships going to open up? Because I still have a year and a half left, so I don't need help this semester, alhamdulillah. So I'm just thinking, what's the plan for the next semesters for that next year? Thank you.
So we wanted to intervene immediately to look at the students who are currently owe payment for the university so we can actually help them out. But at the same time, now we're looking at what's going to happen in the spring and what's going to happen also in next fall. So all of this, we're looking at it and we're studying it. We're considering the impact of changing the scale of the financial aid on the university budget, because as you know, I'm not sure what is your major. At the end of the day, there is money in and money out. There is revenue coming in and expenses coming out, and we have to balance both of them. So that part of the balancing act, that's what we call budget, and that's what we do almost half of the year. So bear with us, wait, we will be announcing any changes in financial aid for spring and for fall once we reach a decision. But Ahmed and I are almost meeting daily in order to discuss those decisions. Ahmed, you want to add something?
Just one additional thing. Already before the second wave of devaluation, we've taken measures to provide better support, taking into consideration the first wave of evaluation, and we'll continue to do that. We are trying to assess financial needs in a more responsive way, taking into consideration the changes in the economy and to address the needs of our students. So we've already taken measures in that direction, and of course we will continue to do that, and we'll continue to do that more systematically as we embark on the next cycle. So.
Thank you. So let's go to this side. Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll come back to you.
Hi, this is Phoebe Ramzi. I'm from the grants team, TL scholarship. I just want to know, what about the performance review appraisal? This year it wasn't considered, and a significant increase was in the same timing of this appraisal. So we were maybe waiting for the appraisal in addition to this increase. Or, you know, sometimes adding to my colleague Nelly and my colleagues there, the starting level 10 and 11 mainly, they didn't get increase that address their needs, actually. And all prices are increasing, everything is increasing, so our needs is decreasing now, and maybe we cannot afford what we used to have before the devaluation. What is the plan? What is the coming plan to address these things? Thank you.
For the performance appraisal last year, and before processing the performance appraisal, we got the first hit of the devaluation this year. So we worked on the resources of the university to address as much as possible an increase in salaries. Yes, there is a considerable concern about providing flat rate not linked to performance. But at this point of time, we were focusing on addressing the devaluation impact that happened in May. In addition to the change in the performance management system cycle that we already communicated to staff this year, and as President Dalal indicated, working in our budgets next year, we are looking into all the impacts of the inflation and devaluation and how to support our staff in a meaningful and significant way. Yes, I understand the concerns about levels 10 and 11, and we are working hard on addressing this category. Again, as an intervention of one-off payment now, and looking into future ways in looking into these specific scales.
Can we go to the front here, Nanda? Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to ask any more, but I just wanted to make something clear for me to be able to understand more, that you're not going to be just, my name is Abir from the ELI, by the way, at the first, and thank you for the convention and the program. I just want to make sure that the compensation will be done not only according to the levels, according to the pay scale, according to what the president was just saying. So I just wanted to make sure that this is what will be happening, because I'm being worried that probably one of the people that in level 6 will be getting paid more than I do at the end. So just considering not only the levels, but the pay scale also.
Yes.
Let's go to this side.
Thank you. My name is Noor. This is my third semester. I wanted to address something you mentioned about financial aid increasing or يعني compensating between when the dollar was 15 Egyptian to 19. I'm not getting the same financial aid that I was my first 2 semesters than I am the third semester. It actually decreased around $200. And you mentioned that because the dollar the pound devaluated again, you're going to compensate for financial aid. However, it didn't compensate. Like I said, it decreased $200 because I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that now it's presented in percentages and not in fixed amounts every semester. But this actually affected us $200. It affected us. That's number one. I wanted to ask, how will financial aid be compensated? The third time round when it wasn't compensated the first time round. Also, I have a question. Why is it not available for the dollar rate to stay fixed? It's a question that everyone's been asking and wondering about. Why can't we why can't it be fixed for 19 or 15 or whatever is suitable for the university? Because there are rumors going around that it might go to 27 LE and 30. This is causing a lot of anxiety and concern for students and faculty, I'm sure. Yes, thank you.
So definitely our commitment is to make sure that no student leaves the university because of his or her inability to pay the tuition. And we have been committed to that since 2016, and I truly believe that we have lived up to our commitment so far. That's one. When devaluation happens, there are families who can absorb that cost. And I would like to thank them because actually they are helping us to achieve our mission. I want to remind everyone that EUC is not for-profit institution. The cost per student is much, much higher than what the student pay if he or she pays the full tuition. And that's our duty. This is what we pride ourselves with. We're here to educate people. We're not here to collect tuition. So when devaluation happens, we all share the pain. So we know that some families, the cost will increase on them, and some families will be able to pay that increase in the cost, and some other families will not be able to pay that cost. And that's where we intervene and we support as much as we can. Honestly, I cannot guarantee when devaluation happens that I will keep that dollar exchange rate fixed for every student. I cannot guarantee that. That means actually us losing money. And if we continue to be in deficit for years, you know the impact of that on the operation of the university. That means that we have to cut number of faculty lines. We have to cut number of staff lines. We have to reduce our operation, and we have to sacrifice quality of many things, including the quality of education at UC. So hard reality is we all have to share that pain, and we're here to support the most people who need the support the most. Dr. Ahmed?
The provost already answered, I think, both questions. You know, the logic behind fixing the rate is that the problem, which is a national problem, and in fact it's an international problem. There are currency issues all over the world. It's as if it's an AUC problem. It's not. AUC as an institution, as a community, is trying to adapt and adjust to a problem which is bigger than us. So fixing the rate when we know that we have higher costs, amount of costs which are denominated in dollars than the income that we get in dollars. Fixing the rate will increase the deficit at the level of the institution, and the institution needs to survive. We need to balance our budget at the end of the year. We have to have a balanced budget at the end of the year. You know, we cannot invent money. Our solution for this year, the immediate intervention, we're fully committed to offset the effect if students need it. Some students, as the provost said, might not need it. We're fully committed to intervene and offset the effect on students and families who cannot afford the effect of the devaluation. But we cannot do that by fixing the rate, because this is a long-term decision that will affect the whole balance of the budget in the university, and we cannot do that. It's not a responsible thing that we can do. There are multiple competing. We have commitments to our community members which are denominated in dollars. We have costs which we incur which are denominated in dollars. The cash flow that we receive, tuitions are denominated in dollars, but they are actually received in Egyptian pounds. And that money is losing value. There are a whole bunch of things that are happening, and we need to balance all of them. So to make a one-time irresponsible intervention, if we do this on our end, it will be irresponsible, because what we're committed to do is to intervene to the full extent that is needed and support our students, as we all, families and students, staff, faculty, the whole university, as we adjust to this new reality and understand how to deal with it, how to weather it, and how to hopefully get to a situation which is much more stable. So our immediate intervention is to absorb some of the immediate impact of the current situation as we plan, as responsibly as we can for the next phase in our operation. And again, I'm hopeful. I hope, this is the hope of the country, that the current instability is going to pass, and we will hopefully be entering a more stable situation that, for the whole country. Hopefully that will also reflect on us. And hopefully next year, everyone would have adjusted. The economy as a whole would have adjusted. Families would have adjusted. Incomes across the country would have adjusted, and hopefully we'll be in a much better situation. Until then, we will do everything in our capacity to deal with the challenges that we're facing and to work collectively as a community. There are situations in the future. I don't know what the future holds for us. There may be situations where we will be faced with, this time around, we planned, and fortunately, we were able to intervene. There may be situations which are above our control. In that case, we would have to shoulder the impact together, collectively. And my commitment to you, if I'm around, hopefully we won't be in a situation like this, is that I will come to you and I'll tell you where we are and what we need to do jointly. Right now, thankfully, we're able to intervene in a way that will minimize the impact that we have across the board, that will support members of our community, and then we will start planning for next year very soon.
I'm a physicist and I like numbers, so please bear with me. I want to just put things in perspective, and I want to get those two numbers in your mind too. And please, they are not exact. So I just did back of the envelope calculations now. The cost per student is around $31,000. So each student, when he get his admission or her admission letter to EUC, we know that their cost per year is almost $31,000. Someone will come and no, it's 32. Someone will come and say, no, it's 30, but it's in that range, $31,000. The student who pays, according to him or her, the full tuition, he or she pays $20,000. So that $11,000 difference, this is the contribution to EUC to every single student at EUC. And that's our mission. And really, this is what makes EUC different than any other university in the country, and almost all universities in the region but one, which is EUB. So that's so let those two, because those are the two not-for-profit institutions in the region. So let us those two numbers, register in your mind, and that means if you getting any financial support, either financial aid or a scholarship, on top of the 20,000, that means that actually the university is paying more fund to attract that student to EUC. That's our role, that's our job, and I hope during the next campus conversation we talk about the new admission system at EUC and the scholarship system at EUC that will hopefully attract more high quality students to EUC and change the face of EUC for the future.
So I think we just have a time for, I'll take one more online and one more in the audience, and then I think we've run out of time. So the online question I'm going to take is with regards to the letters. It's a question about how do they know if they're within the 20% who are excluded, or so will everyone receive a letter, or is it only for the people who are eligible? Please.
Faculty who will not receive the one-time payment will not receive a letter. So the faculty who will receive a letter means that they will receive one-time payment.
Same for staff. Eligible staff only will receive letters.
Okay, thank you. So we'll do one more. Nada, since you're here on this side of the room, let's take perhaps in the middle, Nada, because I think we did a lot in the back. Let's do a little bit in the middle, and then last question. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Mohammed Lalim. My question is actually to Mr. Amir, since he's the CFO of the university. If it's not a liquidity issue and the university is able to find in its resources enough funds to give us the one-time bonus, why it's not a salary adjustment? I understand the president said it's a budget issue and all of that, but there is a formula. I understand the staff has a direct cost and indirect cost. If you allocated for me, for example, £5,000, why that £5,000 doesn't go to that formula, and then maybe my salary would increase by only £200. And the question to the HR, have you actually asked the staff members if we prefer this salary adjustment or the one-time bonus? If you look around you in the audience, all of us, since you sent the email, I've been asking staff members from level 3 to all the way to level 12, all of us, we want the salary adjustment, not the bonus. Thank you.
Okay, Muhammad. So you know better than me, and as an accountant, that there is a budget assumption that is being reviewed by administrations that been submitted to the board. And this year, in fiscal year 23, in anticipation to the devaluation, as part of our budget assumption, we build a provision for one-time payment. This is our assumption for 23. Changing the one-time payment to a permanent increase, this will have an impact on our next year budget, because once it's in your base budget, this is now become a fixed cost to the university. We need to make sure, based on the devaluation, do we have enough resources in 24 actually to cover this additional increase in the base budget or not? This is part of why we postponing any decision to build an increase in the base budget until next July. This is why I'm saying there is a lot of emphasis and focus will be on 24 budget, which will start in January. This will require involvement of everyone, academic, non-academic, revenue centers as well, So once we conclude our assumption for 24, and we know for sure that there's going to be a room for a permanent increase in our budget, definitely this will be part of our FY24. But for now, we cannot change our assumption during the mid of fiscal year, knowing the current situation on inflation, economic inflation. We have a supply chain crisis. There is a delay. Everything right now is been changing even in the country. So we need to wait and see how we can maneuver as a university together during this period, and hopefully by next year we'll have a concrete increase in the base salary, again subject to our budget assumption and finally administration and board approval. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, I think that we've run out of time. Would the panelists like to make any final closing remarks? No? Okay. So thank you very much for this. I'd like to join me in thanking our panelists for this wonderful campus conversation, and thank you to everyone for your engagement, both online. And a quick plug, join us in the next campus conversations this Thursday, live from COP, from AUC at COP 27, 1 o'clock, assembly hour this Thursday. And if you have a moment, please join us for some refreshments outside. Thank you very much.